If someone does not have tears in their eyes after listening to this story, then perhaps that person is stone-hearted. Friends, there was a teacher named Mary in a primary school. She had a habit of saying, "I love you," as soon as she came to the class, but she knew that she was not telling the truth. She did not love all the children in the class equally. There was a child in the class whom she did not like at all. His name was James. James used to come to school in dirty clothes. His hair was messy, his shirt buttons were open, and even while studying, his attention was somewhere else. When Madam scolded him, he would look at her in surprise. But it was clear from his blank eyes that, despite being physically present in the class, James was mentally absent. Gradually, Madam started hating James. In the class, James would often become the target of Madam's criticism. Many bad examples were given in James's name. The children would laugh when he got punished, and Madam would feel satisfied by insulting him. Although James never replied to anything, Madam felt as if he was a heavy stone, without a soul inside. Despite the punishment, he would just look at her with blank eyes and bow his head. Now, this silent defiance irritated Madam even more. The first semester ended, and it was time to make progress reports. Madam wrote all the worst things in James's report. The report first went to the headmaster before being shown to parents. When the headmaster saw James's progress report, he called Madam. "Madam, something should be written about James's progress as well. If you only write negative things, his father will be completely disappointed." Madam replied, "I'm sorry, but James is a very bad child. I don't think I can write anything good about him." She spoke in a disgusted tone and left. The school day ended. The next day, the headmaster had an idea. He instructed the peon to place James's previous progress reports on Madam's table. When Madam entered the class, her eyes fell on the reports. She picked them up, thinking that James must have always been the same. She opened the report from grade 3. After reading it, her surprise had no limit. The report was full of praises. "I have never seen a child as intelligent as James. He is a very sensitive child, and he loves his friends and teachers a lot. James secured first position in the last semester." Madam's hands trembled. She quickly opened the report of grade 4. It read, "James is very tense due to his mother's illness. His mother is suffering from last-stage cancer. There is no one to take care of him at home, which has greatly affected his studies." Below, the headmaster had written, "James's mother is dead, and with her, the shine and radiance of James's life have also faded. We must save him before it's too late." After reading this, Madam felt a terrible burden on her heart. Her hands trembled as she closed the report. Tears started falling from her eyes. She wiped her tears with her sari. The next day, when Madam entered the class, she repeated her traditional phrase, "I love you." But today, she knew she was lying again, because in this class, there was a child with tangled hair, James, for whom the love Madam was feeling today was more than for any other child. During the lesson, she asked James a question as usual. James, as always, didn't respond. For some time, he did not even hear the laughter of the other children. Then he raised his head in surprise. But today, in Madam's eyes, he did not see anger. Today, Madam was smiling. She called him to her, gently told him the answer, and asked him to repeat it. James hesitated, but after being asked 3 to 4 times, he finally spoke. Madam clapped. Not only that, she made the whole class clap for him. From that day, this became a routine. Madam would personally help James with every question. She would praise every good example he gave. Slowly, the old James began to emerge from the grave of silence. Now, Madam didn't need to give him the answers. James himself would give the correct ones. Every day, he impressed everyone with his answers. He even surprised everyone by asking new questions. His hair was now neatly combed. His clothes were clean. Perhaps he had started washing them himself. The year ended quickly. James secured second position and passed grade 5. He was now ready for a new school. During the farewell function, all the children brought beautiful gifts for Madam. Madam's table was piled high with elegant packages. But among them, there was a small gift wrapped in old newspaper. The children laughed when they saw it. It wasn't hard to guess. This gift must have been from James. Madam took James's gift from the pile and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a half-filled bottle of women's perfume and a bangle. The children snickered. But Madam, without hesitation, sprayed the perfume on herself and wore the bangle. The children were shocked. Even James looked surprised. James hesitated, then came closer. In a trembling voice, he whispered, "Today, you smell like my mother." Hearing this, tears welled up in Madam's eyes. She pulled James into a tight embrace. James moved to another school. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. But at the end of every year, Madam received a letter from James. "This year I met many teachers, but none like you, Madam." Years passed. James's studies ended. The letters stopped coming. Madam retired. Then one day, a letter arrived. Inside it read, "Madam, I am getting married at the end of this month. I cannot even imagine this moment without you. I have met many people in life, but none like you. Your doctor, James." Along with the letter was a return plane ticket. Madam couldn't hold back her emotions. She took permission from her husband and left for James's city. On the wedding day, she reached the venue a little late. She thought the ceremony must be over by now. But to her shock, the grand hall was still waiting. The biggest doctors, businessmen, and even the priest were present, waiting. Yet, James was not looking at the wedding pavilion. He was looking at the entrance, waiting for her. As soon as an old woman entered, James ran to her. He took her hand, on which she still wore that bangle. He led her straight to the stage. With a proud voice, James announced, "Friends, you always asked about my mother, and I always promised you would meet her soon. Look closely, this is my mother, the best mother in the world. This is my mother. Look around you. Many children like James are withering. They can be saved with just a little attention and love.